Millionaire went to his hospital until he saw desperate twins. The one in the bed made him cry. The pristine halls of Westside Memorial Hospital gleamed under the careful attention of the maintenance staff. Maxwell Bennett, with his tailored charcoal suit and commanding presence, strode through the corridor with the confidence of a man who owned not just this hospital, but 7 others across the eastern seaboard. The quarterly numbers are exceptional. Mr. Bennett, said Dr. Reynolds, the chief administrator who struggled to keep pace. Patient satisfaction is up 12% since implementing your new protocols. Maxwell nodded, barely listening. These routine inspections were necessary, but tedious. At 45, he had built Bennett Healthcare from nothing into a billion-dollar enterprise through discipline and unwavering focus. Schedule the board presentation for Thursday, Maxwell instructed, checking his platinum watch. I want the new cancer wing plans finalized by then. As they rounded the corner toward the pediatric ward, the sound of children's sobs stopped Maxwell in his tracks. 2 small figures huddled together on a bench outside a patient room, identical twin girls with copper-colored curls, no older than 6, clutching worn stuffed rabbits. Security issue? Maxwell asked, frowning. Dr. Reynolds shook his head. Family of a terminal patient in 307. The mother's condition deteriorated rapidly this morning. Something about their vulnerable posture stirred an unfamiliar feeling in Maxwell's chest. One girl looked up, her tear-streaked face momentarily freezing him in place. Her eyes, a distinctive hazel with flecks of gold, triggered a disorienting sense of recognition. Continue the tour without me, Maxwell said suddenly. I'll catch up. Approaching carefully, he knelt before the bench, maintaining a respectful distance. Hello there, I'm Maxwell. Are you 2 waiting to see someone? The girls exchanged identical wary glances before one whispered, Mommy's really sick. The nurse said we need to wait here. I see, Maxwell said gently. What's your mother's name? Gabriella Adams, replied the more talkative twin. I'm Lily, and this is Lucy. The name hit Maxwell like a physical blow. Gabriella, his former housekeeper, from 7 years ago, the woman whose sudden disappearance had left an unexplained void. The brief but intense affair they'd shared had ended without closure when she simply vanished one day. Is there someone staying with you? Your father? Or a relative? Maxwell asked, his throat suddenly dry. Lucy shook her head. It's just us and Mommy. She said you might come someday. Before Maxwell could process this cryptic statement, a nurse emerged from room 307, her expression grave. Girls, your mother is asking for you. She noticed Maxwell and added, Family only at this time, sir. The twins slipped off the bench, and as they entered the room, Lily turned back. You can come too. Mommy would want to see you. Maxwell followed, his heart pounding against his ribs as he stepped into the dimly lit room where the woman he'd once loved lay dying, unaware that his life was about to change forever. The hospital room was unnaturally quiet, save for the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the labored breathing of the woman in the bed. Maxwell froze in the doorway, struggling to reconcile the Gabriella in his memories, vibrant with laughing eyes and boundless energy, with the frail figure before him. Her once lustrous black hair lay limp against the pillow, her olive skin now ashen. Yet when her eyes opened, they still held that remarkable intensity he remembered. Maxwell, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You came. The twins climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed, one on each side, protective sentinels for their dying mother. Gabriella, Maxwell managed, approaching the bedside. I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me you were here? A ghost of a smile crossed her cracked lips. I didn't call the hospital. Fate brought you today. Maxwell's mind raced through calculations he didn't want to make. The twins' age, their eyes, the same distinctive hazel as his mother's, the same he saw in his mirror every morning. The girls, he began, unable to form the question. Gabriella's gaze shifted between her daughters with unmistakable love. Lily, Lucy, please give me a moment with Mr. Bennett. The girl slid off the bed with surprising grace. each placing a kiss on their mother's cheek before retreating to a small table in the corner, where they began coloring with the focused concentration only children can muster. "They're yours, Maxwell," Gabriella confirmed once the twins were out of earshot, her directness unchanged despite her condition. "I found out after I left." "Why?" The question contained multitudes. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you leave? Why keep this secret?" "You were engaged to Victoria," she replied, each word clearly costing her precious energy. "Your company was taking off. I was your housekeeper." She paused, drawing a rattling breath. "I couldn't be the scandal that destroyed everything you'd built." Maxwell gripped the bed rail, anger and grief colliding. "That wasn't your decision." "To make? Perhaps not," she conceded. "But it's too late for regrets now." Her hand trembled as she reached for him. Maxwell hesitated before taking it, shocked by how little it weighed in his palm. "The cancer, they found it too late," she explained. "Stage 4, metastasized everywhere. I've been fighting for months, but now..." Her eyes drifted to the twins. "They have no one else. No family." "Gabriella," Maxwell whispered, the implications crashing down on him. "They're smart, kind, and brave," she continued, tears now sliding down her hollow cheeks. "Lucy is my artist, sensitive to everyone's feelings. Lily is my protector, always planning and watching over her sister." A monitor began beeping more rapidly. Gabriella's grip on his hand tightened with surprising strength. "Please, Maxwell. I know I have no right to ask, but they're your daughters. They need their father." Maxwell looked over at the girls who were now watching the adults with solemn expressions, somehow understanding the gravity of the moment despite their age. "I'll take care of them," he promised. "I swear it." Relief flooded Gabriella's face. "There's a box in my apartment. Letters I wrote to you but never sent. Everything they need to know about me is there." Her breathing became more labored, and she motioned weakly for the twins. They rushed to her side, somehow understanding this was the moment they had been prepared for. "Remember what Mommy told you," Gabriella whispered, touching each small face. "Be brave, be kind, and know that I will always, always love you." She looked up at Maxwell one last time. "Tell them about us someday. The truth." Her eyes held his as the monitor's steady rhythm faltered, then flatlined into a continuous tone. In that silent moment, as Gabriella slipped away, Maxwell Bennett's carefully constructed world irrevocably changed. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of paperwork, phone calls, and arrangements. Maxwell sat in a sterile conference room in the hospital's administrative wing, his usual commanding presence diminished by the weight of the situation. Across from him, Ms. Winters, a social worker with steel-gray hair and kind eyes, reviewed documents with practiced efficiency. "Temporary emergency guardianship is granted, Mr. Bennett, but you'll need to appear before a family court judge next week," she explained. "Given the circumstances and the biological connection, permanent custody should be straightforward." Maxwell nodded, the phrase biological connection echoing in his mind. DNA tests weren't necessary. One look at the twins' distinctive eyes had confirmed what Gabriella told him. "The girls' belongings?" he asked, "being packed from their apartment as we speak. It was a modest one-bedroom in Brooklyn. They'll be delivered to your address this evening." Maxwell had dispatched his most trusted assistant, Sarah, to handle the details. She'd been the only person he'd confided in about the situation. "And the girls now?" he asked. "In the hospital's playroom. The child psychologist thought familiar surroundings might help them process." Ms. Winters leaned forward. "Mr. Bennett, these children have just lost their mother. They're traumatized and vulnerable. They need stability, not luxury." The implied criticism wasn't lost on Maxwell. "I understand. Do you?" she challenged gently. "Your schedule shows 16-hour workdays, international travel, and social obligations. Parenting twins requires presence, not just resources." For a man accustomed to deference, the direct questioning would normally trigger irritation. Instead, Maxwell felt an unfamiliar humility. "I'll make the necessary adjustments," he said simply. After Ms. Winters left, Maxwell loosened his tie and walked through the hospital corridors to the pediatric playroom. Pausing at the observation window, he watched the twins. Though identical in appearance, their differences were becoming apparent. Lily stood at a small table, methodically organizing blocks by color and size. Lucy sat cross-legged with paper and crayons, lost in her drawing, occasionally brushing tears away with her sleeve. Maxwell entered quietly, unsure of his reception. Lily noticed him first, her small body tensing protectively. "Hello," he said, kneeling to meet their eye level. "May I join you?" Lucy looked up from her drawing. A colorful figure Maxwell recognized as Gabriella, surrounded by flowers. "Are you really our dad?" she asked directly. The question, so innocent yet profound, momentarily stunned him. "Yes," he answered, deciding honesty was the only path forward. "Though I didn't know until yesterday." Lily moved closer to her sister. "Mommy said our dad lived far away in a big house. She showed us your picture once." "I do have a big house," Maxwell acknowledged. "And I'd like you both to come stay there. With me, if that's all right." The twins exchanged a look, a silent communication that seemed to carry an entire conversation. "Will we have our own beds?" Lily asked practically. "Absolutely. Your own beds, and space for your things. Can we bring Mommy's special box?" Lucy added, her voice small. "Of course," Maxwell assured them. "Everything that's important to you." Another silent exchange between the girls. Then Lucy cautiously stood and crossed to him, offering her drawing. "This is for you," she said. "So, you can remember what Mommy looked like when she was happy." Maxwell accepted the paper, a tight knot forming in his throat as he looked at the vibrant figure Gabriella had once been. "Thank you," he managed. "It's beautiful." Lily remained where she stood, watchful and wary, but Lucy surprised him by slipping her small hand into his. "Mommy said you'd take care of us if something happened," she whispered. "She promised." Maxwell gently squeezed the tiny hand in his. "And I will," he said. "That's my promise to you both." That evening, as his driver navigated through Manhattan, traffic toward his penthouse, Maxwell looked at the twin girls buckled into the back seat, their few possessions in bags beside them. Their solemn faces reflected the passing city lights, their future now irrevocably intertwined with his. He had built hospitals, saved companies, and amassed fortunes, but nothing had prepared him for the monumental task of saving these two fragile hearts. Maxwell's penthouse occupied the top 2 floors of a sleek Manhattan high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing spectacular city views. Designed by a renowned minimalist architect, it featured clean lines, museum-quality art, and precisely arranged furniture that had never known the touch of children. Mrs. Harrison, Maxwell's longtime housekeeper, stood ramrod straight in the foyer as they entered. At 60-something, with silver hair pulled into a perfect chignon, she had maintained his household with military precision for over a decade. "Good evening, Mr. Bennett," she said, her eyes widening slightly at the sight of the twins. "The guest rooms have been prepared as requested." "Thank you, Mrs. Harrison. These are Lily and Lucy Adams," Maxwell said, placing a gentle hand on each small shoulder. "They'll be staying with us permanently." To her credit, Mrs. Harrison recovered quickly from her surprise. "Welcome, young ladies. You must be hungry after such a difficult day." Lucy offered a tentative smile while Lily maintained her watchful silence, clutching their mother's wooden memory box against her chest. Over a simple dinner of chicken soup and fresh bread, Mrs. Harrison observed the girls with knowing eyes. When they'd finished eating, she turned to Maxwell. "Sir, if I might have a word." In the kitchen, she spoke frankly. "Mr. Bennett, these children need structure and consistency, especially now. They're in shock, regardless of how composed they appear." Maxwell nodded. "What do you suggest?" "Regular mealtimes, consistent bedtimes, rules that don't change based on your work schedule." She softened slightly. "And patience. Grief isn't linear, especially for children." Back in the living room, Maxwell found the twins examining their surroundings with solemn curiosity. Lucy touched the cool marble of a side table, while Lily stood before the wall of windows gazing at the city below. "It's very high up," Lily observed, her first unprompted words to him. "Yes, it is," Maxwell agreed, joining her at the window. "Does that bother you?" She considered this seriously. "No, but Lucy doesn't like heights." As if summoned, Lucy appeared at her sister's side. "Are we allowed to touch things here?" she asked cautiously. The question struck Maxwell powerfully. This sterile environment, perfect for a bachelor businessman, suddenly seemed harsh and unwelcoming through a child's eyes. "This is your home now," he said. "You're allowed to be comfortable here." Later, as he showed them to their temporary room, a guest suite hastily adapted with twin beds, Lucy unpacked a framed photograph of Gabriella and placed it carefully on the nightstand. Lily set the wooden memory box between their beds. "We need to tell you our rules," she announced suddenly. Maxwell, surprised, sat on the edge of one bed. "I'm listening." The twins exchanged one of their silent communications before Lily continued. "Rule 1, you can't throw away anything of Mommy's without asking us first." "Rule 2, Lucy added softly, you have to tell us the truth, even when it's sad." "Rule 3, we stay together, always. No separate rooms or schools," Lily stated, firmly. "Rule 4, you have to keep your promises. Mommy said you would." Maxwell nodded, humbled by their directness. "Those are good rules. I accept them all." Lily's posture relaxed slightly. "We have questions too. I'll answer whatever I can." "Did you love our mom?" Lucy asked, her voice small. The room went still. Maxwell chose his words carefully. "Yes, I did, though our time together was brief. She was kind, intelligent, and had the most wonderful laugh." Lily's eyes narrowed. "Then why weren't you with us?" "I didn't know about you," Maxwell said honestly. "Your mother and I were apart before she discovered she was expecting you." "Would you have stayed if you knew?" Lucy pressed. The question pierced him. "I believe I would have, yes." After a moment, Lily nodded, apparently satisfied with his sincerity. She unlatched the wooden box and withdrew an envelope, handing it to Maxwell. "Mommy said to give you this if we ever found you." Later, alone in his study with the unsealed letter, Maxwell recognized Gabriella's elegant handwriting. "Maxwell, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and our daughters have found their way to you. I made choices that kept you from knowing them, believing it best for everyone. I was wrong. They deserve their father, and perhaps you deserve the chance to know them too. Love them, Maxwell. Not as you loved me, briefly and intensely, but patiently and consistently. They are the best of both of us. Forgive me." Gabriella Maxwell folded the letter, the weight of her last request settling over him like a mantle. In his world of business, where problems could be solved with money and influence, he now faced a challenge no wealth could simplify: earning the trust of two grieving children. The morning light streamed through Central Park's golden leaves as Maxwell guided the twins along a winding path. After a week of awkward adjustments in the penthouse, he'd decided a Saturday in the park might help them connect. His phone remained off, a first in years, despite 3 pending acquisitions and a board meeting on Monday. "Look, a carousel." Lucy pointed to the historic merry-go-round ahead, her eyes lighting up for the first time since Gabriella's death. Lily, ever practical, turned to Maxwell. "Does it cost money?" "Yes, but that's not a problem," Maxwell answered, realizing they had no concept of his wealth. Gabriella had raised them modestly, he'd learned from reviewing her financial records. Their Brooklyn apartment could have fit in his master bathroom. The carousel's vintage horses gleamed in the autumn sunshine, calliope music drifting through the air. Lucy rushed forward eagerly, but Lily hung back, studying Maxwell. "Did you and Mom ever come here?" she asked. "Once," Maxwell admitted, memories surfacing. "A spring day much warmer than today. She loved the rowboats on the lake." Lily processed this information with typical solemnity. She brought us here every birthday. She said important memories should happen in beautiful places. Maxwell felt the familiar pang of all he had missed. 6 birthdays, first steps, first words. That sounds like your mother. She found beauty everywhere. A hint of a smile touched Lily's face before she hurried to join her sister. Watching them select their carousel horses, Lucy choosing a flamboyant white stallion while Lily picked a sensible brown mare, Maxwell noticed their similar features, but increasingly distinct personalities. Lucy wore her emotions openly, while Lily observed everything with thoughtful reserve. As the carousel began its gentle rotation, Lucy waved joyfully with each pass. But it was Lily's unexpected laugh, a sound remarkably like Gabriella's, that caught Maxwell off guard, its brightness piercing through his carefully maintained composure. After the ride, they explored the park playground. Maxwell sat awkwardly on a bench, conspicuous in his casual weekend clothes that still somehow looked too formal among the other parents in well-worn jeans and sweatshirts. "Your daughters are lovely," remarked a woman beside him. "Twins are such a blessing." "Thank you," Maxwell replied, the words "your daughters" still strange to his ears. "Daddy, watch this," Lucy called, preparing to go down a slide. It was the first time either had called him anything but Mr. Bennett, and the unexpectedness of it made him catch his breath. He waved encouragingly, not trusting his voice. Later, as they shared hot chocolate at a park cafe, Lucy worked intently on a drawing while Lily studied Maxwell over her cup. "You're different outside," she observed. "Different how?" he asked. "Less stiff. Mom said you were always serious, but you smiled when we went on the carousel." Maxwell considered this. "I suppose I am different here. My work requires a certain formality." "What exactly do you do?" Lily asked. "Mom just said you were important." "I build and manage hospitals," he explained simply. "Places where people can get the best medical care." Lucy looked up from her drawing. "Like where Mommy was?" "Yes, like that one." "But you couldn't make her better," Lucy said, not accusatory but confused. The innocent observation struck deeper than any board member's criticism ever had. "No," Maxwell admitted quietly. "Some illnesses are too strong even for the best doctors and hospitals." A somber silence fell until Lucy pushed her completed drawing across the table. It showed the 4 of them, Lucy, Lily, Maxwell, and a luminous figure clearly meant to be Gabriella, all holding hands near the carousel. "Mom's still with us," Lucy explained seriously. "Just not where we can see her." Maxwell studied the drawing, emotion threatening to overwhelm his carefully constructed composure. "May I keep this?" Lucy nodded solemnly. "It's so you remember today." On the taxi ride home, exhausted from the fresh air and activity, Lucy fell, asleep against Maxwell's arm. Lily, fighting to keep her eyes open, asked quietly, "Can we come back next weekend?" "Of course," Maxwell promised. "We can come whenever you'd like." As Lily finally succumbed to sleep, her small head resting against his shoulder, Maxwell gazed at their reflections in the taxi window. A man who had always stood alone, now flanked by 2 small figures who had inexplicably become the center of his world. When they arrived at the penthouse, he carefully carried them one by one to their beds, something shifting permanently in his heart as he tucked the blankets around them. His phone, when he finally turned it on, showed 27 missed calls and 42 urgent messages. For the first time in his adult life, Maxwell Bennett let them all wait until morning. Maxwell awoke to the unfamiliar sound of coughing from the twins' room. He found both girls feverish and miserable, Lucy whimpering while Lily tried to comfort her despite her own flushed cheeks. "I think we're sick," Lily announced unnecessarily, her usual composure cracking slightly. Maxwell placed a hand on each small forehead, feeling the alarming heat radiating from them. For a man who owned hospitals, he suddenly felt remarkably unprepared. "I'll call our pediatrician," he said, reaching for his phone. "No," Lucy cried, eyes wide with fear. "No more doctors or hospitals." Maxwell understood immediately, Their last hospital experience had ended with losing their mother. "All right," he agreed gently. "No hospitals, but we need medicine to help you feel better." Mrs. Harrison arrived and took immediate control, sending Maxwell's assistant to gather pediatric fever reducers, hydration drinks, and children's cough syrup. "They need quiet, rest, and fluids," she instructed. "The doctor says it's likely just a seasonal virus." Maxwell nodded, grateful for her experience. "I'll have to reschedule today's meetings. You have the Collins merger presentation," Mrs. Harrison reminded him. "The one you've been preparing for months." Maxwell hesitated. The Collins merger represented a $400 million expansion into the West Coast market, something he'd pursued for years. His phone buzzed with a text from Richard, his business partner. "Singapore investors getting nervous about your absence. Need you at today's presentation, millions at stake." As if sensing his conflict, Lily's small voice cut through. "Are you leaving us?" "I have an important meeting," Maxwell began. "Mommy never left when we were sick," Lucy whispered, tears welling in her already fever-bright eyes. The simplicity of the statement struck him. Gabriella had likely sacrificed countless opportunities to be there when her daughters needed her. "The meeting can be rescheduled," Maxwell decided, texting Richard. "Handle Collins' presentation without me. Family emergency." Richard's response was immediate. "Family? Since when?" "This is our future at stake, Max." Maxwell silenced his phone and turned to Mrs. Harrison. "Show me what they need." The day passed in a blur of tepid baths to lower fevers. Spoonfuls of medicine met with grimaces and countless glasses of juice. Maxwell canceled all calls, focusing entirely on monitoring temperatures and providing comfort. By afternoon, the twins' fevers rose alarmingly, their small bodies radiating heat despite their medication. Lucy's breathing became labored, each cough sounding worse than the last. "Maybe we should call the doctor again," Maxwell suggested, anxiety tightening his chest. Lily, between her own coughing fits, regarded him solemnly. "Lucy's scared of doctors. Mommy used to tell us stories when we were sick to distract us." "Stories?" Maxwell asked, grasping at the suggestion. Lily nodded. "About brave princesses who fought dragons and saved kingdoms." Maxwell had built empires and negotiated billion-dollar deals, but storytelling had never been part of his skill set. Still, he pulled a chair between their beds and began haltingly. "Once upon a time, there were two princess twins who were the bravest in all the land." The story was awkward at first, but gained momentum as Maxwell wove in details about the twins themselves, how one princess was artistic and kind, the other clever and protective. The girls listened with fever-glazed eyes but rapt attention as he described adventures inspired by their day at Central Park. Hours later, as the evening stretched into night, both girls finally fell into fitful sleep. Maxwell remained in his chair, watching over them, afraid to leave lest they wake scared and alone. Mrs. Harrison found him there at midnight, half asleep himself. "Sir, you should rest. Tomorrow will be another long day." "I'll stay," he said, simply. She nodded, something like approval in her eyes. "There's soup warming in the kitchen when they wake." Near dawn, Maxwell felt a small hand gripping his. He opened his eyes to find Lily watching him intently. "You stayed all night," she whispered, sounding surprised. "Of course," Maxwell replied. "Mom said you were a very busy man." "Nothing is more important than you two," he said, realizing as he spoke that it had become absolutely true. Lily studied him with eyes so like his own, her expression far too serious for her young face. Then, in a gesture that felt monumentally significant, she leaned forward and rested her head against his arm, allowing herself to be vulnerable in his presence for the first time. Maxwell's phone vibrated quietly in his pocket. Likely Richard, again with merger fallout. But he didn't move to check it, unwilling to break this fragile new trust. By morning, the twins' fevers had broken. As they sat propped up in bed sipping Mrs. Harrison's chicken soup, Maxwell's assistant arrived with urgent papers requiring his signature. "Mr. Bennett needs to review these immediately," she insisted. "The board is requesting an emergency meeting. regarding yesterday's presentation failure. Maxwell took the documents but set them aside unopened. Tell them I'll be available tomorrow. Today I'm still needed here. As his assistant left, visibly stunned, Maxwell returned to the twins' bedside where he had promised to finish his story about the brave princesses who, against all odds, found their way home. "Mr. Bennett, I've rearranged your schedule as requested," Sarah, Maxwell's executive assistant, said as she placed a revised calendar on his desk. "Board meetings moved to afternoons, morning calls consolidated, and I've blocked Tuesday and Thursday evenings entirely." Maxwell nodded, reviewing the changes. The past month had transformed his meticulously organized life into something more chaotic but infinitely more meaningful. "The school forms?" he asked. "Processed. The twins start at Westridge Academy next Monday. Their records from Brooklyn Elementary have been transferred." Sarah hesitated. "There's another matter. Mr. Winters has called 3 times today. He's concerned about your recent disengagement." Richard Winters, Maxwell's business partner for 15 years, had been increasingly vocal about his disapproval of Maxwell's new priorities. "Schedule a dinner with him next week," Maxwell decided, "at my home. It's time he met the girls." After Sarah left, Maxwell noticed a file folder suspiciously out of place on his credenza. Financial projections he'd reviewed yesterday were missing. Something felt wrong, but before he could investigate further, his phone alarm chimed. Time to meet the twins after their ballet assessment. The prestigious dance studio occupied an airy loft in the theater district. Maxwell arrived to find Lucy emerging from class beaming with excitement, while Lily followed with a more measured expression. "Did you see me, Daddy?" "I did 3 pirouettes," Lucy exclaimed, demonstrating a slightly wobbly spin. The word Daddy still caught him off guard, a title he was slowly growing into. "Impressive," he smiled. "How about you, Lily? Did you enjoy it?" "It was acceptable," Lily replied, though the slight flush on her cheeks betrayed her enjoyment. "The instructor says we both have natural ability." At the upscale Italian restaurant near the studio, one of many child-friendly establishments Maxwell had recently discovered, he watched the twins carefully select from the menu, noting how they'd begun to adapt to their new circumstances. "We need to discuss something important," Maxwell said once they had ordered. "School starts next week." Lucy immediately tensed. "Together, right? You promised we'd stay together." "Absolutely together," he assured them. "Same classroom, same schedule." Lily studied him with her analytical gaze. "Is it a fancy school? Will the other kids know we didn't always have—" She gestured vaguely at Maxwell's expensive watch and the high-end restaurant. Maxwell hadn't considered this perspective. "It's a good school," he said carefully. "But what matters is that you both feel comfortable. If you don't like it, we'll find another." Their conversation was interrupted by Maxwell's phone vibrating persistently. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. His ex-fiancée and current board member whose calls he'd been avoiding. "Sorry, I need to take this," he apologized, stepping away from the table. "Maxwell, darling." Victoria's voice dripped with false sweetness. "Richard tells me you've become quite the family man. How charming." "What do you need, Victoria?" Maxwell asked directly. "The Collins merger is salvageable despite your abandonment, but the board is nervous. Your sudden focus on those children—" "My daughters," Maxwell corrected firmly. "Yes, your surprise offspring," Victoria continued dismissively. "They're concerned it's affecting your judgment. Richard is making quite a compelling case for temporary leadership changes." The warning was clear. Maxwell glanced back at the twins, who were sharing a dessert, heads bent together in their unique synchronicity. "The board meeting is tomorrow. I'll address their concerns then," he said before ending the call. That evening, after tucking the girls into their beds, now personalized with colorful comforters and stuffed animals, Maxwell began a new ritual. Seated between their beds, he read from a collection of children's stories Gabriella had saved. "Daddy?" Lucy asked sleepily when he finished. "Are you happy we came to live with you?" The question pierced straight to his heart. "Happier than I've ever been," he answered truthfully. "Even though it makes your work harder?" Lily pressed ever. Perceptive. Maxwell considered how to explain the seismic shift in his priorities. Before you came, all I had was work. It seemed important then. Now I see what truly matters. Long after they'd fallen asleep, Maxwell returned to his study where he spent hours reviewing company documents and preparing for the board meeting. Something in Victoria's tone had alarmed him. Opening his safe, he verified that key acquisition documents remained secure, then checked his email for any unusual activity. A message from an anonymous account contained only a cryptic warning. Watch Richard and Victoria carefully. Not all allies are friends. Maxwell stared at the screen, pieces falling into place. The missing financial projections. Richard's sudden alignment with Victoria. The board's concerns about his leadership. The corporate chess game he'd always excelled at was taking a dangerous turn. Yet, as he formulated his counter-strategy, Maxwell realized his opponents had miscalculated significantly. Before the twins, they could have threatened his company and found him intimidating, but potentially vulnerable. Now, with Lily and Lucy, depending on him, they faced a Maxwell Bennett who would fight with the ferocity that only comes from protecting what you truly love. The board meeting had gone exactly as Maxwell anticipated. Victoria and Richard had presented their concerns about his diminished focus with practiced concern. Maxwell had countered with precise quarterly figures showing company growth, despite his adjusted schedule. The other board members, seeing the numbers, had quickly aligned behind him. The matter seemed settled, but Maxwell knew better. The warning email had been correct. This was only the beginning. He was reviewing security protocols for the company's digital files when Lucy appeared in his home office doorway, clutching a photograph. "Daddy, I found this in Mommy's memory box," she said, holding out a faded picture. Maxwell recognized it immediately. He and Gabriella at a company holiday party 7 years ago, the only photograph they'd ever taken together. He'd worn a tuxedo. She, a simple black dress she'd saved for months to buy. Her radiant smile still had the power to make his chest tighten. "May I see?" he asked gently. Lucy handed him the photograph and climbed into his lap. A level of physical comfort she'd developed faster than her more reserved sister. "You look happy," she observed. "And Mommy's so pretty." She was beautiful, Maxwell agreed. Inside and out. "Why did you stop loving each other?" Lucy asked with the direct innocence only children possess. Maxwell chose his words carefully. "We didn't stop loving each other exactly. Life pulled us in different directions." "Because you were rich and important and Mommy wasn't?" Lucy pressed. The question stung with its accuracy. "That was part of it. I made choices based on what I thought mattered then." Lucy studied his face thoughtfully. "Mommy said you would have been a good dad if you knew about us. I hope I'm becoming one now," Maxwell said softly. Lucy nodded seriously. "You're doing okay. Lily thinks so too, even though she doesn't say it." From the doorway came Lily's voice. "Lucy, that was private." Maxwell looked up to see his other daughter watching with a mixture of embarrassment and indignation. "It's all right," he assured Lily. "I'm glad to hear you think I'm doing okay." Lily approached cautiously. "I have questions too. About you and Mom." "Ask me anything," Maxwell offered, though the prospect was daunting. "We have your eyes," Lily stated. "Not a question, but an observation. And the way you tap your fingers when you're thinking, I do that too." Maxwell nodded. "You do. You both have many of my mannerisms, though Lucy has more of your mother's expressions." "When you found out about us at the hospital," Lily continued, her gaze intense, "were you happy or just obligated?" The directness of the question took Maxwell aback. "I was shocked," he admitted honestly. Then sad about the years I'd missed, but happy? Yes, overwhelmingly so once the surprise wore off. Lily seemed to consider this carefully. "Richard doesn't like us." The sudden change of subject surprised Maxwell. "You've only met him once, what makes you say that?" "The way he looked at us during dinner last week, like we were problems to be solved," Lily explained with unsettling perception. "And he called us your little surprises when he thought we couldn't hear." Maxwell's jaw tightened. Richard had indeed been dismissive during their dinner, barely acknowledging the twins. Richard is adjusting to the changes in my life. He works with you at the hospitals? Lucy asked. Yes, we built the company together, Maxwell explained. But sometimes people who work together don't share the same values. Is he trying to take your company? Lily asked bluntly. Maxwell nearly choked on his surprise. What makes you ask that? I heard you talking on the phone last night. You said someone was trying to undermine you. Maxwell hadn't realized she'd been listening. Her perceptiveness was both impressive and concerning. Adult business can be complicated, he began, but stopped himself. He'd promised them honesty. Yes, Richard and another colleague may be trying to gain more control of the company. Because of us? Lucy asked in a small voice. No, Maxwell said firmly. Because of their own ambition. You two are the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I won't let anyone suggest otherwise. Lucy seemed satisfied with this answer, but Lily's expression remained troubled. Your mother kept a journal, Maxwell said gently. It's in her memory box. When you're ready, it might answer more of your questions about the past. Later that night, Maxwell found Lily alone in the living room. Gabriella's journal open in her lap. She tried to tell you about us, Lily said without looking up. 3 times. Maxwell sat beside her, heart heavy. I wish she had reached me. The last time was when you got engaged to Victoria. Mom saw it in a magazine, Lily continued. She decided then that it was too late. The revelation hit Maxwell like a physical blow. I'm so sorry, Lily. Lily closed the journal carefully. Mom wrote that she didn't regret her choices. She said we filled her life with more joy than she'd ever imagined possible. She finally looked up at him, her expression both vulnerable and wise beyond her years. We can't change the past, can we? No, Maxwell agreed softly. But we can learn from it. Lily nodded, a child carrying adult understanding on her small shoulders. I'm glad we found you, she said simply, before slipping away to bed, leaving Maxwell with the weight of missed opportunities and the precious second chance he'd been given. I don't think I can do this, Lucy whispered, clutching the edge of the pool with white-knuckled fingers. The crystal blue water of the Westside Athletic Club's indoor pool lapped gently around her shoulders, her expression a mixture of determination and terror. Maxwell knelt at the pool's edge in swim trunks that still had their price tags attached until that morning. You're doing wonderfully, Lucy, just like Ms. Rivera showed us. 3 weeks into their swimming lessons, Lily had already progressed to basic freestyle, her methodical approach perfectly suited to the structured learning. Lucy, despite her usual fearlessness in other areas, struggled with water confidence. Perhaps that's enough for today, suggested their instructor, noticing Lucy's distress. No, Lucy said with sudden resolve. I want to try again, like Mommy taught us. Brave girls face their fears. Maxwell felt the familiar pang at these glimpses of Gabriella's parenting wisdom. He lowered himself into the water beside Lucy. What if we try together? You can hold on to me until you're ready. Lucy considered this, then nodded. Slowly, she released the pool edge and gripped Maxwell's shoulders instead. That's it, he encouraged. Now just kick your legs like we practiced. For 15 minutes, they worked together, Maxwell gradually giving Lucy more independence until she was floating with just his fingertips supporting her. Look, Daddy, I'm doing it, she exclaimed as she managed to propel herself forward several feet. From the middle of the pool where she was practicing, Lily called, Good job, Lucy. Her rare display of outward enthusiasm made Lucy beam with pride. As they were changing after the lesson, Maxwell's phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Urgent. Singapore deal papers missing from secure file room. Need you at office ASAP, Maxwell. Frowned. The Singapore acquisition was their most sensitive pending deal, representing a $1.2 billion expansion into the Asian market. The missing papers could only mean one thing. Richard was making his move. Girls, he began, preparing to explain that their planned ice cream outing would need to be postponed. Before he could continue, Lily emerged from the changing room, her wet hair neatly combed, expression serious as usual. "You promised ice cream if we both improved today," she reminded him. Lucy finally floated on her own. Maxwell looked from Lily's expectant face to his phone, feeling the pull of two worlds. The deal was crucial, but this moment with his daughters couldn't be recaptured. "You're absolutely right," he said, putting his phone away. "I did promise, and promises are kept in this family." Lucy bounced out of the changing room, her earlier fear forgotten. "Can I get sprinkles and fudge this time?" At the ice cream parlor across from the athletic club, Maxwell watched his daughters select their treats with the same serious consideration they gave all decisions. Lily methodically sampled 3 flavors before selecting classic chocolate, while Lucy created a colorful concoction topped with every available garnish. As they ate, Maxwell discreetly sent instructions to Sarah to secure the remaining documents and implement their contingency protocol, a security measure he'd created after the first signs of Richard's betrayal. "Daddy, you're doing the finger-tapping thing again," Lily observed. "Is it work problems?" "Just a small fire to put out," Maxwell assured her, amazed at her perception. "Is it Richard?" she pressed, lowering her voice. Maxwell hesitated, then nodded slightly. "Nothing for you to worry about." "We could help," Lucy offered earnestly. "I'm good at finding lost things." The innocent offer touched Maxwell deeply. "Thank you, but this is something I need to handle alone." "You're not alone anymore," Lily stated matter-of-factly. "That's what family means." The simple wisdom in her words struck Maxwell powerfully. For decades, he'd faced every challenge solo, trusting no one completely, not even Richard or Victoria during their closest collaborations. "You're right," he acknowledged. "We are a family, and I promise I won't shut you out of important things, but some adult problems need adult solutions." Lucy nodded sagely, ice cream smeared across her chin. "Like when Mommy wouldn't let us help? Pay the bills even though we offered our allowance." The comparison brought both a smile and an ache. Gabriella had shouldered her burdens alone, protecting the girls from adult worries, just as he was trying to do now. "Can we come back for swimming next Saturday?" Lucy asked, changing subjects with a child's natural flexibility. "Absolutely," Maxwell agreed, realizing he'd never confirmed a regular weekend activity before the twins. His weekends had always been for catching up on work or attending business functions. "We should invite Mrs. Harrison next time," Lily suggested thoughtfully. "She said she used to teach swimming before she became a housekeeper." Maxwell raised his eyebrows, surprised. "I didn't know that." "There's a lot you don't know about her," Lily replied. "She has 3 grandchildren in Connecticut and collects snow globes." "You've been talking with Mrs. Harrison?" Lily shrugged. "She tells good stories while she's making lunch, about her life and stuff." Maxwell realized how much he'd missed about the woman who had managed his household for years. Before the twins, he'd barely registered Mrs. Harrison as more than a competent employee. Through his daughter's eyes, he was learning to see the humanity in people he'd overlooked. As they left the ice cream shop, Lucy slipped her small hand into his. "Next Saturday, can you teach us instead of Ms. Rivera? You're a better teacher because you're patient." "Patient?" Maxwell repeated, surprised by the description. Patience had never been a quality anyone attributed to him before. "Yeah," Lucy confirmed. "You don't get mad when we make mistakes." Lily took his other hand, completing the connection. "You're learning too," she observed with her usual insight. "Just like us." Maxwell stood in the private showroom of Harrington's Jewelers, examining the custom designs spread before him on black velvet. The twins' 7th birthday was approaching, their first since coming into his life, and he wanted it to be perfect. "These are exquisite, Mr. Bennett," the jeweler remarked. "Truly one-of-a-kind pieces." Maxwell nodded, studying the twin lockets with a critical eye. Though identical in size and shape, each contained subtle differences that reflected their owners' distinct personalities. Lily's featured clean geometric engravings, while Lucy's bore delicate floral patterns. "The engraving inside?" Maxwell asked. The jeweler opened each locket carefully. Inside Lily's were the words, Your strength lights our path. Lucy's read, your joy brightens our days. Perfect, Maxwell approved. And the photographs? Sized and prepared as requested. Maxwell had spent hours selecting the right image of Gabriella for each locket, a thoughtful expression for Lily's, a laughing one for Lucy's. Though their birthday party would feature all the extravagances money could buy, he understood these simple lockets would hold the most meaning. As he left the jeweler's, his phone rang with a blocked number. Maxwell answered cautiously. Mr. Bennett, we haven't formally met. I'm James Cooper, head of security at Bennett Memorial. The voice was low, professional. Your instructions were to contact you directly about any unusual document access. Maxwell tensed. Go on. Ms. Lockhart accessed confidential acquisition papers at 2 a.m. last night. Security footage shows her photographing documents related to the Singapore merger, Victoria. So she and Richard were working together just as he'd suspected. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Implement protocol firewall immediately. Already done, sir. All sensitive documents are secured and digital access has been restricted to your encrypted terminal only. Maxwell ended the call, his mind racing with countermeasures. The corporate battle was escalating, but today his focus needed to be elsewhere. Back at the penthouse, final birthday preparations were underway. Mrs. Harrison had transformed the usually austere living space into a wonderland of balloons and streamers. A professional baker was putting final touches on an elaborate two-tiered cake, half decorated with books and science symbols for Lily, half with ballet slippers and paintbrushes for Lucy. The twins were spending the morning with their art teacher, giving Maxwell time for final arrangements. He slipped into what they now called the memory room, a space dedicated to preserving Gabriella's presence in their lives. Among her belongings, Maxwell had found a small diary containing birthday traditions she'd created for the girls. Following her written instructions, he had arranged for a sunrise breakfast of chocolate chip pancakes, ensured their favorite songs would play throughout the day, and prepared a special candle lighting ritual she had performed each year. When the twins arrived home, their eyes widened at the transformation. "This is amazing," Lucy gasped, spinning to take it all in. Even Lily looked genuinely impressed. "You remembered everything." "I had help," Maxwell admitted, gesturing toward the memory room. "Your mother left very specific instructions." Something softened in Lily's expression. "You read her birthday journal?" Maxwell nodded. "I wanted to honor her traditions while creating some new ones together." The afternoon brought a small gathering. Classmates from their new school, ballet friends, and a few children of Maxwell's, more understanding colleagues. No business associates were invited. This day was purely for family. After games and cake, Maxwell presented each girl with a small velvet box. "These are special," he explained as they gathered in a quiet corner away from the party. "Something to keep with you always." Lucy opened hers first, gasping at the delicate locket. "It's beautiful." Lily examined hers more carefully, running her finger over the geometric pattern. "They're different," she observed with approval. "Open them," Maxwell encouraged softly. When they discovered their mother's photographs inside, both girls went silent. Lucy's eyes immediately welled with tears, while Lily's expression became still and focused. "Turn them over," Maxwell said. They read their engravings quietly, then looked up at him with identical expressions of wonder. "How did you know?" Lucy whispered. "Know what?" Maxwell asked. "Mom used to call me her little joy," Lucy explained, voice catching. Lily nodded solemnly. "And she called me her guiding strength." Maxwell felt a chill of recognition. He'd chosen the words instinctively, somehow channeling Gabriella's perspective without knowing it. "Great minds think alike, I suppose," he said softly, as he helped. Each girl fastened their locket. Maxwell noticed a change in Lily's demeanor. The cautious reserve she typically maintained had momentarily dropped. "Thank you," she said, her voice unexpectedly vulnerable. "For remembering her too." "I always will," Maxwell promised. "She gave me the greatest gifts possible." Later, after the party guests had departed and the twins were preparing for bed, Maxwell found Lucy studying her locket in the soft lamplight. "Does it make you sad?" he asked gently. "Seeing your mom's picture?" Lucy considered this thoughtfully. "A little, but mostly it makes me happy, knowing she's still with us." She glanced toward her sister, who was carefully arranging her new books. Lily pretends she's okay, but she misses Mom the most. "How do you know?" Maxwell asked. "Because she's trying the hardest to be brave," Lucy said with surprising insight. "Mom said people who seem the strongest need the most love sometimes." Maxwell absorbed this wisdom, grateful for these glimpses into Gabriella's parenting that continued to guide him. That night, as he tucked them in, Lily asked a question that caught him off guard. "If you and Mom had stayed together, what would our lives have been like?" Maxwell sat on the edge of her bed, giving the question the consideration it deserved. "Different, certainly, but I'd like to think we would have found our way to becoming a family, just as we're doing now." Lucy, already half asleep, murmured, "Better late than never. That's what Mom always said." "Your mother," Maxwell replied softly, "was a very wise woman." Long after the twins had fallen asleep, Maxwell remained in their doorway, watching their peaceful forms illuminated by nightlight, each small hand curled protectively around her new locket. Physical links to the past that somehow made their future together feel more secure. "The penthouse feels too much like a museum," Maxwell explained as he spread architectural drawings across the dining table. "I want somewhere that feels like a real home for all of us." 3 months had passed since the twins' birthday. The corporate crisis with Richard and Victoria had reached a tense stalemate. Maxwell had secured enough board support to neutralize their immediate threat, but the undercurrents of their ambition remained. Meanwhile, his relationship with the twins had grown steadily stronger. School drop-offs, weekend outings, and nightly reading had become cherished routines. Yet the penthouse, despite the twins' colorful additions, still felt like Maxwell's space that they occupied rather than a true family home. "These are houses," Lily observed, studying the drawings with her usual focus. "Brownstones in Park Slope," Maxwell confirmed. "Near your old neighborhood, actually. I've narrowed it down to 3 possibilities." Lucy peered at the plans from her kneeling position on a dining chair. "Are we moving?" "That's what I want to discuss with you both," Maxwell said carefully. "This would be a fresh start for all of us. A home we choose together where none of us has lived before." The twins exchanged their silent communication glance. "What about all of Mommy's things in the memory room?" Lucy asked, concern evident in her voice. "They would come with us, of course," Maxwell assured her. "In fact, I was thinking we could design a special space just for them." This seemed to satisfy Lucy, but Lily remained thoughtful. "Why not just stay here?" she questioned. "You've already changed everything for us." Maxwell considered her perspective. "The penthouse was designed for my old life, all glass and sharp corners. I want somewhere with a yard where you can play, separate bedrooms you can decorate however you want, and maybe even room for a dog someday." Lucy's eyes widened at the mention of a dog, but Lily remained skeptical. "May I show you something?" Maxwell asked, bringing out his tablet. He pulled up photos of each property, including one particular brownstone with a walled garden. "This one reminded me of something your mother wrote in her journal, about how she always wanted a house with a garden where you could plant flowers together." Lily's expression softened slightly. She did love gardens. "I thought maybe we could plant some of her favorite flowers," Maxwell suggested. "Create a special corner just for her." "Roses," Lucy supplied immediately. "The pink ones with the good smell. And lavender," Lily added quietly. "She kept dried bunches in our closets." Maxwell nodded, memorizing these details. "We could make it beautiful together." "What about your work?" Lily asked practically. "Isn't the penthouse closer to your office?" "I'd have a slightly longer commute," Maxwell acknowledged. "But I've been thinking about that too. I might step back from day-to-day operations." Both girls looked surprised by this. "You mean work less?" Lucy asked, as if the concept was difficult to imagine. Maxwell smiled. "Focus on the big decisions while letting others handle the daily details." It would mean more time with you two. Because of us? Lily's question held a hint of concern, the weight of responsibility too heavy for her small shoulders. Because of me, Maxwell clarified. Because I've discovered what's truly important, and it isn't sitting in meetings all day. He unrolled another set of plans showing the interior layout of his preferred brownstone. See these 3 bedrooms? Upstairs? I thought each of you could design your own exactly as you want it. Lucy immediately pointed to the room with the bay window. I want that one. I could put my easel there and see the garden. Lily studied the floor plan more methodically. The back bedroom would be quieter for reading, she mused, showing genuine interest for the first time. Maxwell held his breath, sensing a breakthrough moment. There's another bedroom on the main floor that could be the memory room, he added, gently. More accessible than tucked away upstairs. The twins exchanged another look, something significant passing between them. We would need to see it first, Lily finally declared, her tone suggesting she was negotiating terms. Before deciding. Of course, Maxwell agreed. We can visit this weekend. No pressure, just to look. And if we don't like it, Lily pressed. Then we keep looking until we find the right place for all of us, Maxwell promised. This is a family decision. Lucy, who had been studying the garden plan intently, looked up with unexpected tears in her eyes. Mommy would like this, she said softly. She always wanted a forever home for us. The simple statement hung in the air, powerful in its childlike certainty. Later, after the twins had gone to bed, Maxwell found Lily sitting alone in the memory room, holding one of Gabriella's scarves. Are you okay? He asked, sitting beside her. Did you know we moved 5 times when I was little? She asked. Mom kept trying to find good places we could afford. Maxwell felt the familiar ache of what he'd missed, what Gabriella had endured. Alone. I didn't know that. She never complained, Lily continued, but she used to say someday we'd have a real home with enough space and a garden. She looked up at him with serious eyes. I think she'd like your idea. Thank you for telling me that, Maxwell said softly. Your approval means everything to me, Lily. She carefully refolded the scarf. I didn't say I approved yet, she corrected, but the hint of a smile softened her words. But I might, after we see it. As Maxwell kissed her goodnight, he realized how much his happiness now depended on the approval of this solemn 7-year-old who carried her mother's strength and wisdom. Whatever you decide, he promised, we face it together. Close your eyes, Maxwell instructed as he led the twins up the brownstone's front steps, each holding one of his hands. After 2 months of renovations, their new home was finally ready. The April morning was crisp and bright, cherry blossoms dotting the tree-lined street. Mrs. Harrison waited at the top of the steps, her usually stern expression softened by a rare smile. Ready? Maxwell asked. 1, 2, 3, open. Lucy gasped audibly while Lily's eyes widened in silent appreciation. The previously dated interior had been transformed into an elegant but welcoming space that somehow balanced Maxwell's refined taste with the warmth and practicality the twins needed. It's beautiful, Lucy breathed, taking in the entryway with its restored original woodwork and family photographs already arranged on the walls. Come see everything, Maxwell encouraged, barely containing his own excitement. He'd thrown himself into this project with uncharacteristic abandon, overseeing every detail personally rather than delegating as he typically would. The main floor flowed through a formal living room, with decidedly child-friendly furniture, a dining room with a table large enough for entertaining, and a modern kitchen where Mrs. Harrison was already arranging freshly baked cookies. Those are for after lunch, she warned as Lucy eyed them hopefully. What had previously been a small study off the living room now housed the memory room. Maxwell led the twins there first, recognizing its importance in their transition. Oh, Lucy whispered as they entered the sunlit space. Here, Gabriella's presence was honored without feeling like a shrine. Her photographs adorned the walls, including several Maxwell had discovered in storage that the twins had never seen. Gabriella as a college student, receiving awards for her teaching, looking impossibly young and vibrant. Her cherished books, filled custom shelves, and her favorite reading chair had been carefully restored. Maxwell had commissioned a display cabinet for small treasures. Her collection of vintage perfume bottles, the seashells she'd gathered on rare beach trips with the twins, the journals she'd kept. "We found these in your old apartment storage," Maxwell explained, indicating a small trunk. "Letters your mother wrote to her parents when she was in college. I thought you might want to read them someday." Lily ran her fingers along the spines of her mother's books. "You kept everything," she said quietly. "Everything that mattered," Maxwell confirmed. Lucy had discovered something unexpected in the corner, a small upright piano. "Was this Mommy's?" "No," Maxwell admitted. "But I found a note in her journal that she always wanted you both to have music lessons if it was possible. I thought we could start, if you're interested." The tour continued upstairs, where the true transformation was evident. The master bedroom suite was elegant but understated, and a previously cramped office had been converted into a cozy family room with comfortable seating and bookshelves. "Now for your rooms," Maxwell announced, leading them down the hallway. Lucy's room was first, a space filled with light from the bay window she'd admired in the plans. The walls were painted a soft lavender, and a window seat offered the perfect perch for daydreaming. An easel stood ready by the window, and a ballet bar had been installed along one wall. Most impressively, a mural of dancing figures graced the ceiling, a design based on a drawing Lucy had made. "It's perfect," she exclaimed, twirling in place. "Exactly what I imagined." Lily's room, by contrast, was a haven of calm organization. Painted a serene blue-green, it featured floor-to-ceiling bookshelves on 2 walls, already filled with both her existing collection and dozens of new titles Maxwell had carefully selected based on her interests. A cozy reading nook contained a small armchair identical to her mother's in the memory room, and a telescope stood by the window overlooking the garden. Unlike her sister's immediate exuberance, Lily walked the perimeter of her room slowly, touching the books, examining the reading light, opening and closing drawers in the perfectly proportioned desk. "The bottom 3 shelves are empty," Maxwell explained, "for new books as your collection grows." Lily nodded, clearly processing the significance of this permanent space designed exclusively for her. "Thank you," she said simply. But the words carried weight. "There's one more surprise," Maxwell announced, leading them back downstairs and through the kitchen to the rear of the house. The garden had been completely reimagined from the overgrown patch they'd first viewed. Now, stone pathways wound through. Newly planted flower beds, a small fountain bubbled at the center, and a wooden bench sat beneath a budding cherry tree. The garden was designed with a special area, Maxwell explained, guiding them to a circular bed near the bench. "This is Gabriella's garden. I've planted her favorites, roses, lavender, and lily of the valley that Mrs. Harrison told me she loved." A small bronze plaque marked the space. "In loving memory of Gabriella Adams, whose beauty continues to bloom in her daughters." Lucy immediately knelt to touch the fresh plantings, while Lily stood very still, her composure finally breaking, as a tear slid down her cheek. "It's okay to miss her," Maxwell said gently, kneeling to meet her eye level. "We can be happy in our new home and still miss her very much." Lily nodded, allowing him to wipe away her tear. "She would have loved this place." "I think so too," Maxwell agreed. As the twins explored the garden further, Maxwell's phone vibrated in his pocket. The screen showed a text from James Cooper, his security chief. "Urgent. Financial records accessed from unknown terminal. Appears Richard has backup documents we didn't secure. Call immediately." Maxwell silenced the phone without responding, watching Lucy chase a butterfly while Lily examined the fountain mechanism with scientific curiosity. The business crisis would wait an hour. This moment would not. Mrs. Harrison appeared at his side with a tray of lemonade. "The movers are waiting with the final delivery. Should I have them bring it in?" Maxwell nodded, and soon the delivery men were carefully maneuvering a large object covered in protective blankets through the front door. They positioned it in the living room before removing the coverings to reveal a grand piano. Not the upright in the memory room, but a magnificent instrument that gleamed in the sunlight from the bay windows. "This is too much, sir," Mrs. Harrison murmured, though her expression showed approval. "Perhaps," Maxwell acknowledged, "but I wanted one thing that represented our future together, something none of us has experienced before." The twins returned from the garden to find Maxwell seated at the piano, tentatively playing a simple melody. "You can play?" Lucy asked. Incredulous. "Barely," Maxwell admitted. "I took lessons as a child but gave it up for more practical pursuits. I thought perhaps we could all learn together." "All of us?" Lily clarified. "All of us," Maxwell confirmed. "I've scheduled a teacher to come twice weekly. We'll be beginners together." The concept of their powerful, competent father being a beginner at anything seemed to fascinate the twins. They climbed onto the bench beside him, and he showed them the simple notes he remembered. As Lucy experimentally pressed keys and Lily observed the hammer mechanism with interest, Maxwell's phone vibrated again insistently. This time multiple messages appeared. "Emergency board meeting called by Richard for tomorrow. Victoria claiming financial irregularities require your removal. Need response strategy immediately." The corporate ambush he'd anticipated was finally happening. Tomorrow would require all his strategic brilliance to save the company he'd built. But today belonged to this moment, in this new home with these two remarkable children who had transformed his life completely. "Daddy?" Lucy's voice pulled him back. "Are you okay? You look worried." Maxwell smiled, pushing the business crisis firmly from his mind. "I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I don't think I've ever been better." And in that moment, despite the looming battle ahead, it was absolutely true. Maxwell sat in his home office reviewing quarterly reports when he heard the front door open, and the twins' animated voices filling the entryway. They'd spent the afternoon at a classmate's birthday party while he caught up on work, an arrangement that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago but now felt comfortably routine. "Daddy," Lucy called, her footsteps racing toward his office. "We brought you cake." She appeared in the doorway, her party dress slightly rumpled, holding a napkin-wrapped slice of birthday cake with obvious pride. Lily followed more sedately, her observant eyes taking in the paper spread across his desk. "Thank you," Maxwell smiled, clearing a space for Lucy's offering. "How was the party?" "Really fun," Lucy enthused. "They had a magician who pulled a rabbit from a hat, and Emma's mom made a cake shaped like a carousel. It was adequate entertainment for 7-year-olds, Lily assessed more critically, though the chocolate smudge on her cheek suggested she'd enjoyed herself more than she admitted. Maxwell had learned to translate Lily speak. Adequate was actually high praise from his more reserved daughter. "Emma asked why we don't have the same last name as you," Lucy mentioned casually, perching on the edge of his desk. Maxwell froze, his hand halfway to the cake. He'd known this moment would eventually come, but hadn't expected it today. "What? Did you tell her?" he asked carefully. Lily adjusted her glasses, a gesture Maxwell recognized as her preparation for addressing something important. "We said our mom gave us her last name when we were born. Emma asked if that was because you weren't married, and I said yes." "I see." Maxwell nodded, buying time to gather his thoughts. They'd never directly discussed why the twins had Gabriella's surname rather than his. That was a good answer. "But it made me think," Lily continued, her analytical mind clearly having spent the afternoon processing this question. "Our birth certificates don't have your name on them at all. I've seen them in Mom's important papers box." Maxwell took a deep breath. He'd always intended to have this conversation when the time was right. Apparently that time had arrived. "Girls, why don't we move to the living room? This feels like a comfortable couch conversation." Once settled in the living room, the twins, watching him expectantly, Maxwell chose his words with care. "You're right, Lily. My name isn't on your birth certificates, and there's a reason for that. When your mother and I were together, it was brief but meaningful. We separated before she knew she was expecting you. She never told you about us," Lucy stated. Not a question, but a confirmation of what she'd pieced together. "Not directly," Maxwell acknowledged. "As you discovered in her journals, she tried several times, but circumstances prevented the message from reaching me." But why didn't she put your name on our birth certificates anyway? Lily pressed, always seeking logical explanations. Maxwell hesitated, not wanting to speculate about Gabriella's reasons yet needing to be truthful. I believe she was trying to protect everyone involved. I was engaged to someone else by the time you were born, building my company, moving in different circles. Your mother made a difficult choice to raise you on her own. Was she ashamed of us? Lucy asked in a small voice that broke Maxwell's heart. Absolutely not, he said firmly. Never think that. Your mother was the most proud, devoted parent imaginable. She made choices she believed were best for everyone, including me, though I wish she had made different ones. Lily's eyes narrowed, slightly. Did you want to find out about us, really? The question cut to the heart of his greatest regret. If I had known about you, I would have moved heaven and earth to be part of your lives, Maxwell said with absolute conviction. Not having those early years with you is my greatest sadness. The twins exchanged one of their silent communication glances. We found something else, Lucy said finally, reaching into her small backpack. She withdrew a folded document that Maxwell immediately recognized as a birth certificate. It was hidden in a false bottom in Mom's jewelry box, Lily explained, different from the ones in the important papers. Maxwell took the document with trembling hands. It was indeed a birth certificate, the original, with his name clearly listed as father for both Lily and Lucy. She did name you, Lucy said softly. Just not on the copies she showed everyone else. Maxwell stared at the document, emotions washing over him in waves. Gabriella had acknowledged him as the twins' father in this most official way, even if she had kept it private. There's more, Lily added, producing a sealed envelope yellowed with age. This was with it. It has your name on it. The envelope, addressed simply to Maxwell, had never been mailed. Maxwell opened it carefully, unfolding a letter written in Gabriella's distinctive handwriting, dated just weeks after the twins' birth. Maxwell, our daughters were born on May 12th. They are perfect, identical, and entirely miraculous. I've named them Lily and Lucy, flowers that bloom even in difficult conditions which seemed appropriate given our circumstances. I've made the decision not to disrupt your life with this news. Your engagement was announced in the Times last month, and your company is expanding rapidly. The path you're walking doesn't have room for an unexpected family, and I've made peace with that. But I wanted you to know, somewhere in the universe, that these beautiful girls carry your determination in their eyes, your intelligence in their expressions, your steadfastness in their spirits. They are the best of both of us. I've enclosed the original birth certificate where I've named you as their father. This is the only copy that acknowledges this truth. Perhaps, someday, when they're older and circumstances have changed, they will find you. If that day comes, please know that whatever choices I've made were never from a place of anger or resentment, but from my best understanding of what would cause the least pain for all involved. With enduring affection, Gabriella Maxwell looked up from the letter to find the twins watching him intently. She always intended for us to find you, Lily said quietly, just not until we were older. The universe had other plans, Maxwell replied, his voice thick with emotion. Are you sad? Lucy asked, her empathetic nature immediately tuning to his feelings. No, Maxwell assured her, gathering himself. I'm grateful. Your mother gave me the most precious gift possible, even if it came later than it might have. We have questions, Lily stated predictably, ever the investigator. About why you and Mom separated. About Victoria. About what happened. Maxwell nodded, recognizing their right to understand their own history. I'll answer everything as honestly as I can. For the next hour, he shared the unvarnished truth of his relationship with Gabriella. How they'd met when she worked briefly as his housekeeper during her graduate studies, their connection that crossed professional and social boundaries, and the difficult choice he'd made to prioritize his career over what had seemed like an impossible relationship. He answered their questions without sugarcoating his own mistakes, his ambition that had blinded him to what truly mattered, his engagement to Victoria that had been more strategic than loving, his single-minded focus on building his empire at the expense of deeper connections. I was a different person then, he concluded. Meeting you two has changed everything about how I see the world. The twins absorbed this information with remarkable maturity. Finally, Lily asked the question that had clearly been weighing on her mind. What happens now? About our last name, I mean. Maxwell considered carefully. That's entirely up to you. We could change your last name to Bennett, or you could keep Adams to honor your mother, or you could hyphenate both names. There's no wrong answer. If we change to Bennett, would Mom be sad? Lucy wondered. I think your mother would want whatever makes you feel most connected to your whole story, Maxwell suggested. But this isn't a decision we need to make today. We can take time to think about it. I like Adams Bennett, Lucy declared suddenly. Then we keep both of you with us. Lily nodded slowly. That seems logical. A hyphenated name acknowledges our complete heritage. Maxwell felt a surge of pride at their wisdom. Adams Bennett sounds perfect to me. Later, after the twins had gone to bed, Maxwell returned to his office and carefully placed the original birth certificate and Gabriella's letter in his safe. These precious documents, evidence of a truth that had always existed even when hidden, deserved the utmost protection. His phone chimed with a message from his legal team. Victoria filing new motion tomorrow. Claims evidence of financial mismanagement. Requesting emergency board meeting. The corporate battle continued, but it had lost its power to consume him. Whatever challenges awaited at tomorrow's board meeting, Maxwell knew with absolute certainty what mattered most. And it wasn't stock prices or market share. It was two small girls sleeping upstairs, who had given him the gift of perspective that no amount of business success could provide. The Bennett Healthcare boardroom hummed with tension as Maxwell reviewed his notes. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the 30 executives and board members assembled for what promised to be the most contentious meeting in the company's history. Victoria sat across the table, immaculate in a tailored suit, confidence radiating from her perfect posture. Beside her, a team of lawyers arranged documents with practiced efficiency. She caught Maxwell's eye and smiled thinly, the smile of someone who believed victory was assured. The evidence is quite damning, Maxwell, she had purred moments earlier in a failed attempt at private reconciliation. Financial irregularities, distracted leadership, erratic decision-making. The board has lost confidence. A graceful resignation would preserve your reputation and substantial shareholding. I appreciate your concern, Maxwell had replied evenly. But I think I'll take my chances with the full board. Now, as the chairman called the emergency meeting to order, Maxwell felt a strange calm. A year ago, this corporate ambush would have consumed him with rage and fear. Today, he recognized it for what it was. Important, but ultimately secondary to what truly mattered. Before we address the allegations, Maxwell requested when called upon, I'd like permission to bring in two individuals central to understanding my recent leadership decisions. The chairman frowned but nodded. Maxwell signaled to his assistant, who opened the boardroom door. Mrs. Harrison entered, accompanied by Lily and Lucy Adams Bennett, dressed in matching blue dresses with their hair neatly braided. A murmur of confusion spread through the room. Victoria's expression shifted from confident to bewildered. What is this? A publicity stunt? She demanded. Children have no place in a boardroom. On the contrary, Maxwell replied calmly, guiding the twins to stand beside him. These are my daughters, Lily and Lucy Adams Bennett, and they are precisely why we're here today. He turned to address the board directly. 14 months ago, I discovered I was the father of twin daughters whose mother was critically ill. Upon her passing, I became their sole parent. Every decision I've made since, including delegating daily operations and restructuring my role, has been with their well-being in mind. Victoria scoffed. This is exactly our point. Your personal situation has compromised your business judgment. It? Maxwell countered, gesturing to the financial reports before each board member. Our stock price is up 18%. Our patient satisfaction rankings are at an all-time high. The Singapore merger, which you claimed I neglected, closed with terms even more favorable than initially projected. He looked around the table, meeting each person's gaze. What Victoria characterizes as financial irregularities are actually the strategic reallocation of resources I initiated to build our preventative care programs that have reduced readmission rates by 22% and saved millions in long-term costs. The board members began examining the reports with renewed interest. I've always said our mission is improving healthcare, Maxwell continued. Becoming a father has only deepened my commitment to that mission. These girls have taught me what truly matters, not just quarterly profits, but the long-term impact of our work on families like mine. Lily, ever perceptive, stepped forward. My father works really hard, she stated with unexpected poise. He still reads reports every night after our bedtime, but he also makes time to help with our homework and attend our school events. And he makes the best pancakes, Lucy added earnestly, drawing smiles from several board members. Victoria's eyes narrowed. This emotional appeal is inappropriate. We're discussing serious allegations of financial mismanagement. We're discussing leadership, Maxwell corrected, and leadership requires both vision and values. My daughters haven't distracted me from our mission, they've clarified it. He distributed additional documents prepared by his team. You'll find detailed responses to each allegation, with supporting evidence that traces the source of these misleading claims directly to communications between Ms. Lockhart and parties interested in acquiring our company at depressed prices. Victoria paled visibly as board members began reviewing the evidence. I brought my daughters here today not as a stunt, but because I want this board to understand exactly who I am now, Maxwell explained. I am a healthcare executive committed to building hospitals that deliver exceptional care. I'm also a father committed to raising remarkable young women. These identities strengthen rather than diminish each other. The chairman cleared his throat. Perhaps we should deliberate privately on these matters. Before you do, Maxwell said, I want to be perfectly clear. If this board feels my family commitments compromise my leadership, I will respect that decision. But I will not apologize for becoming the father these girls deserve, even if it means stepping away from the company I built. Mrs. Harrison guided the twins from the room, Lucy offering a cheerful wave to the stunned board members as they departed. 3 hours later, Maxwell stood in the garden of their brownstone home, watching Lily carefully measuring water for the rose bushes in Gabriella's garden while Lucy painted at an easel nearby, capturing the flowers in vibrant colors. His phone rang, the chairman's number appearing on screen. Maxwell, the chairman began formally. After reviewing all evidence and deliberating at length, the board has unanimously rejected the allegations against you. Furthermore, Ms. Lockhart has been removed from the board, effective immediately, and we've accepted her resignation from all positions within the company. I see, Maxwell replied calmly, though relief washed through him. There's more, the chairman continued. The board has approved your proposal for the Family Wellness Initiative, including the Gabriella Adams Memorial Wing for maternal and pediatric care. This was unexpected. A proposal Maxwell had submitted months ago, inspired by Gabriella's experience as a single mother navigating healthcare systems alone. Thank you, he said simply. One final matter, the chairman added. Your daughters made quite an impression today. Several board members suggested our annual charity gala might benefit from showcasing the children's hospital wing. Perhaps your family would consider attending as guests of honor. Maxwell watched as Lucy abandoned her painting to help Lily with the watering, the two of them giggling as they accidentally sprayed each other. I'll discuss it with my daughters and let you know. They have busy schedules with school and activities. After ending the call, Maxwell joined the twins in the garden. Accepting the watering can, Lily solemnly handed him. Did you win against the mean lady? Lucy asked directly, having formed a distinctly negative impression of Victoria during their brief boardroom encounter. It wasn't about winning, Maxwell explained, carefully watering the lavender. It was about making sure people understood what matters most to me. Us, Lily clarified, her perceptive eyes studying his expression. Always you, Maxwell confirmed. Everything else is secondary. Later that evening, after piano lessons and dinner, the twins prepared for bed. Maxwell completed their nightly ritual of reading from Gabriella's favorite childhood book, a tradition they'd maintained since moving into the brownstone. As he turned out the light, Lucy asked drowsily, "Are you happy, Daddy? Even though your work is harder now because of us?" The question echoed one she'd asked months earlier, but this time, Maxwell had an answer ready. "I'm happier than I ever imagined possible. You two haven't made my work harder. You've made my life infinitely better." This seemed to satisfy Lucy, who drifted quickly to sleep. But Lily, as usual, had one more question as Maxwell kissed her goodnight. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd known about us from the beginning?" she asked. The question she'd been holding back for months finally finding voice. Maxwell sat on the edge of her bed, giving the question the consideration it deserved. "I do wonder," he admitted. "I imagine a different life where I was there for your first steps, your first words, where your mother and I raised you together. Would you have married Mom?" Lily pressed. "I believe I would have," Maxwell answered honestly. "And we would have built a different kind of life together. Perhaps not with the same business success I achieved, but rich in other ways." Lily nodded, processing this alternative history. "But then we wouldn't have had our time with just Mom or all her special traditions." "That's true," Maxwell acknowledged. "Every path has its joys and sorrows. I'm deeply sorry I missed your early years, but I'm grateful beyond words for the time we have now." Lily considered this, then reached for something on her nightstand, the locket he'd given her, which she removed only for sleep and bathing. She opened it carefully, revealing Gabriella's picture. "Mom told us once that life doesn't always give you what you expect, but it usually gives you what you need," she said, wisdom beyond her years in her solemn expression. "I think she was right." "Your mother," Maxwell said softly, "was right about most things." After Lily finally succumbed to sleep, Maxwell lingered in the hallway between their rooms, overwhelmed by gratitude for the second chance he'd been given. A chance to be the father these extraordinary girls deserved, to honor Gabriella's memory, through loving their daughters, to build a life centered on what truly mattered. In his pocket, his phone vibrated with another work crisis demanding attention. It would wait until morning. Tonight belonged to the peaceful knowledge that his priorities were finally, perfectly aligned. The universe had given him exactly what he needed, even if it had arrived in the most unexpected way, through the heartbreak of loss and the miracle of discovery, through the courage of two little girls who had taught him the true meaning of success and the immeasurable value of love. In Lily and Lucy's peaceful breathing, in the home they'd created together, in the garden where Gabriella's memory bloomed alongside their new traditions, Maxwell Bennett had found the answer to the question he'd never known to ask. What makes a life truly rich? Family above all else. Always.